Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristietobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? On this episode of Fearlessly Made You, I am honored to invite a dear friend of mine, Beej Davis, on the show. Beej and I met through our mutual connection to the Pensacola community. We both have the privilege of serving on one of our favorite nonprofit boards together, Favor House. But I am not going to tell you guys all about Beej because I want him to tell you about himself. But welcome, Beej.
Thank you.
So excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor for me, and I appreciate that very warm welcome.
Oh, of course. Beej, one of the things that I love about Beej is he has such an effervescent personality, but he is so purposeful in everything that he does. And I think that's the thing that's connected us the most is, especially on our journey together with Favor House, I think there's just a lot of things that we're getting the opportunity to help innovate and reinvent. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's beautiful watching I love watching people's brains work and working through challenges and difficulties. And I think that's just such a beautiful part of who you are. And it's what really connects you to being fearless on this Fearlessly Made You podcast. See what I did there?
I did. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. So Beej, I want you to talk to our Fearlessly Made You crew. Talk to them a little bit about who you are and your connection to the Pensacola community. And of course, that question around, what it means for you to be fearless.
Well, again, thank you for having me on. I am a local yokel. I've lived in Pensacola all of my life, or the Pensacola area. My family has lived here most of their lives as well. So it was around high school time when, people would say things like, oh, there's nothing to do in Pensacola. It's just, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to get out of here. Well, they all left. They all came back.
Of course.
But I ended up just staying here. I had no desire to really go. University of West Florida was an incredible school. I knew incredible people here. I had an incredible family net and friend net. So I just stuck around and just made the best out of it. And I just kind of feel like that's how my life has led me, is that, if you just make the best out of something and really put that passion and your heart into something, you can make it work.
I love that. Well, and as you say that too, one of the things that I love about Fearlessly Made You is the conversations we have before we even start filming. And as part of that, you and I had a really honest conversation. We were like, I just want to be honest. I want to be authentic. I want to be raw. Ask me those hard questions. And, the fun part about this is it is about that authenticity, and it's about just kind of laying things out. And, as you guys know from each of our different episodes, everyone has a part of their story that there's some pain that's wrapped into that, but there's this part of that pain that's helped bring about this new level of understanding and lessons learned that help build that fearless existence. And so I want to kind of talk with you a little bit through, what have been some of the things for you within your life that have kind of brought you to where you are, because I consider you one of those people who I truly admire just because of your authenticity, and you unapologetically are you. Every single interaction, every single time, it's just you are always exactly who you are, and you never allow anyone to tell you that you're any different. And so it makes me think there's more to that story and how you've gotten to this place. So talk to us a little bit about what your fearless journey has been.
Thank you again for those kind words. And I appreciate you being able to see that I have purpose. And I think you and I think a lot of this the same way, is that we're very methodic, and we want to see a specific outcome. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes will wrap my experience in things and know exactly how things should be. And that is how I've been able to come and be more flexible. It starts with flexibility. Mm-hmm. And I believe in a previous episode, you talked about, that realization that it's not you. Mm-hmm. So when expectations aren't met and they're your expectations, why do you have those expectations? Yeah. What is it that someone specifically did that makes you have an expectation for him or her? And so when you realize that we're all just I believe that we're all just doing the best we can. And I honestly try to go through life, and I don't like to use that as an excuse either, because you may seem sometimes, or you may see in me, living with purpose. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can be very off-putting, and I will be the first to admit that, Kristie, and that's actually something I'm working on. And some, huge life changes in the last couple of years. I love your subscription to counseling and to therapy and to self-help. am seeing a professional counselor as well, because I honestly really do want to be the best that I can be for this community. This community has been very good to me, very good to my family. And then I'm starting to see now people in need, and I'm in a point in my life where I just want to help them.
That's amazing. And I love that commitment to the community for you, as well as, using your own personal opportunities to help drive growth and drive development within the people that we see every day, and the people who sometimes don't feel like they can authentically show up. But, people are watching us and watching others who they feel like are being themselves. So it's interesting as you're like, I can be off-putting. It's like, you and me both. It's why I drink champagne.
And you know what? That's why I don't drink champagne anymore. So there you go.
That's fair. That's fair. We all have our things.
Indeed.
But to that point, though, you share something that I think is so important, which is that connection to community. Mm-hmm. And you started off talking about, your background is Pensacola, so supporting and helping the community is there. But has there been something that's really pulled you so specifically into all of the boards and organizations that you serve and support?
I was thinking about that earlier because I had a feeling that this conversation would take that turn. And I've never really thought at a certain time, this is where I'm going to be in 10 years. I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I just told you that I have very clear expectations, except when it comes to me. I just kind of like to let that life lead me. And so there's never been a time when I thought to myself, in 10 years and 5 years, I'm going to be doing this. Mm-hmm. Whatever I was doing right then, I wanted to make it purposeful and meaningful. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of great experiences, for everything from waiting tables to working in a movie theater, working at a grocery store, seeing people in their day-to-day lives. Yeah. That's how I became connected to our community. Seeing our prolific leaders buying some eggs at the store and just seeing them living an everyday life and thinking to myself, they're living a life and they're also living a life with purpose. Absolutely. So I guess just emulating that ability. When I say the community has been very good to me, there have been a lot of people I could look up to, and you're definitely one of those now who's just flown into Pensacola and has made quite a mark. So I'm not even sure if I've answered your question specifically.
Absolutely. No, you definitely have.
I guess just going back to where I'm at a point now in my life where I'm really starting to recognize the struggle of others and pain. And it's hard for me to sit here as a white man to say that to you. And that's kind of part of that difficult conversation I wanted to have with you, and saying that there are people out there, regardless of what they've been brought up for or what they've been brought up among, mm-hmm. that it's important to see those people who really, truly struggle.
Yeah. Well, flesh that out a little bit. So in talking about, that's one of the conversations you wanted to have. And you don't have to by any means expose anyone else's story, but talk with me a little bit about some of the things that you feel like you've seen, and how they've really continued to impact your drive and your focus on that journey.
Yeah, I think that Pensacola, just like with any mid-ish, small, large town, is a microcosm of what is going on, in the world and in our country. And, we have to pick and choose what we're going to be influenced by. And there's, I'm not going to sit here and say there are good people on both sides, the way we all make mistakes, mm-hmm. but there are means like through social media and the fact that people are getting voices. Mm-hmm. We're starting to hear those voices and starting to see, the struggles, especially with people of color, mm-hmm. and the systematic issues that we have. And I hate that we're just celebrating 1 month of Asian and Pacific Islander appreciation. I love the programs that are on, because it helps me, again, mm-hmm. as a person who lived in my own personal bubble, mm-hmm. to be exposed to only a certain number of things. Well, I'm now starting to pick and choose fearlessly what I subject myself to. And I'm a proponent of science. I'm a proponent of peace and love. And I am just a proponent of people living with their best life and living with their heart.
I love that. So as you think about that and kind of as your journey is moving forward, what are some of the things that you want our community to understand about where we can continue to uplift each other, where we can continue to grow together? And how do you see yourself kind of fitting into what that next phase looks like?
I feel that there are so many incredible organizations in our town. And the reason why they're so great is that they are, like you said earlier, innovative. Mm-hmm. I think we were chatting offline. I love innovation is that they are continually looking at what we need to do now or what we need to change to do it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And these groups that I am personally involved with, and there are countless others that do this, that look at those disparities and inequities of every single person that is affected by domestic violence or cancer or, a death of a military member. Those are the kind of things that affect everyone.
Yep.
And those good organizations are going to be the ones that recognize that it affects everyone.
Absolutely. Well, and as you say that, kind of breaking into one of the organizations, as we were talking about before, so Beej and I had the opportunity to meet through our mutual connection of being on the board for Favor House. And so Favor House is an organization that's specifically focused on supporting those who are victims of domestic violence. And it's why this organization is so near and dear to my heart from my background. And for those of you that have read Fearlessly Made You or have heard part of my story, you understand that I've got that background in abuse and rape and sexual assault. And so being a part of this organization has been so important to me. And so hearing your desire and continued focus on let's kind of shine the light on what's going on and
Right.
why these organizations exist and why they're so important. I want to kind of take us down a narrow scope to Favor House and what brought you to Favor House. So I know a little bit of your story, but our Fearlessly Made You crew does not.
Okay.
So talk to them a little bit about how you got to be on the board of Favor House, how you got to be connected to Favor House.
Well, I've, again, having lived in this town, I'm exposed to so many great people and leaders who were involved in that organization. And we had supported by attending the events, or they had a White Rose luncheon they had every year for 16 years. And so last year with the pandemic, they had to call it off. And that's when, again, it comes back to when those organizations are really good at what they do, is that they understood that facet of personal connections and being together for a common good was just as way more important than being on a Zoom call once a month.
Right.
So we did what we could to get that event back in person. So I saw opportunity. I saw a real opportunity to help people. And I have experienced domestic violence in my family, close to me, close friends. So I'm very well aware of the impacts of it. And there's the feeling of fearless, but I often feel powerless. And I'll tell you that too, is that to know that numbers are rising of domestic cases of isolation and being stuck inside the home, there's so many things that are compounded that I cannot do to help. So we just have to take a deep breath and say, what can we do to help? Okay, let's start bringing people back together to get us excited about helping people who suffer from domestic violence.
That is beautiful, because it is one of those things where not enough people pay attention to what has happened over the past year. I think we see it in our own lives. And I think oftentimes when crisis happens or when things happen that are totally beyond our understanding, like a pandemic, we kind of isolate ourselves and we get very insular, and it's our world that is crushing or our world that is coming down around us. And we don't see the world of those who have already been in a situation such as domestic violence and see the impact that a pandemic has on a world that's already crumbling. Exactly.
And, we don't have any time to get into how it's affecting, the adoption system and the foster system. And that's what comes to mind, is that they're just, especially the vulnerable community too.
Yes.
And I think that someone without a voice is very vulnerable.
Yes.
And we need to give them that voice. We don't need to speak for them.
Yes.
And I saw something really interesting, about, the race relations or political relations and having someone say, why can't we all just get along? And there was a sentiment of, don't try to make your, I forget what it was. Don't try to make your enemy, try not to befriend your enemies. If you don't need to, you don't need to. I mean, I think that there's a reasonable amount of discourse that should be allowed in life. So, as long as we're doing what we can, I don't want to keep saying in my bubble, because I'm trying to get out of the bubble.
You're getting out of the bubble.
Exactly. There's no reason to push yourself into other bubbles, I guess is what you're saying.
No, I totally get what you're saying. There's the conversation which you are absolutely promoting, which is we have the opportunity to see beyond ourselves and to support and engage beyond ourselves. But it doesn't mean that we have to step into an area that was never ours to step into in the first place.
Exactly. Because I'm a firm believer in working on ourselves first and foremost. And, I had a thought about, with counseling and working on ourselves, this was, it was a good time to do that. It was a good time to kind of be silent and be quiet and really evaluate. Because, I think I subscribe to the chaos theory, and is that even though there is a finite amount of chaos in our lives, that it's linked somehow. And if we can just kind of take a breath and get over it, we can be super productive. And that's something that I've been working on too. I get overwhelmed very easily.
Fair.
So again, going back to your question of why I landed where I am now, is that I've really evaluated where my time is, because I've worked with volunteers on both sides of that desk, and your time is your most valuable resource. You can write a check, but I'll tell you, personally, I'd rather see you at every board meeting or at every event helping out, or sending out emails, or, helping with the food drive. Money talks, and there are plenty of resources in this town, but I guess I'm just striving or really hungering for that human connection.
That's amazing. And I think that really kind of brings us to that conversation around the journey of having a fearless existence and the journey about being fearlessly made. And, part of that, I know Beej fervently read Fearlessly Made You, which y'all, I love. My favorite thing about Fearlessly Made You is when people are reading and they message me or text me.
That is not your favorite thing. You were so annoyed because I was texting I would turn a page. Oh my God, I've done this too. You should do this. Oh wait, never mind. You just addressed it in the next one.
I love it. I promise you, that's the funny thing, is because you're not the only one that does that, believe it or not. I have a lot of messages that are coming from people, and I actually love it. I think you think you're bothering me. It brings so much joy to my heart because it tells me you're relating to it, which is amazing to me.
And and in so many words, I absolutely did. And if those viewers and listeners who haven't seen it, haven't read the book yet, they need to read it, because
agreed.
It is agreed. And I'm not. And she did not. You did not pay me to say that, did you? No way. But I'm not lending out my copy. You're gonna have to find your own copy. It did speak to me, and I, regardless of if we've lived the same experiences, I'm just at a point in my life where I picked up this book. It was brought to me by some force. You call it whatever you'd like, or whomever you listeners and viewers can like. But this was brought to me, and I opened it and read it, and this is what I needed. And it sounds so cheesy to say this, Kristie, but it's what I needed to read at the time. And I told you earlier that I've moved my nervousness to excitement to be talking to you today, because I am genuinely excited that. I love the words like journey. I love using those words like journey and path. And that there's a Rascal Flatts song, God gave me the broken road that led me straight to you.
Yes.
And I'm not a country fan, and I know I butchered that. I'm so sorry, Rascal Flatts fans.
They'll be okay.
But it was kind of, we all are on that broken path, and we all sometimes have to jump on stones, and they're broken stones, and there may not be a stone there, but we always can find that strength to either hop over that or find that next stone.
Absolutely. Well, and as you say that, it brings about the conversation about, as you think about what your path is in your journey, I'm interested in seeing for you, you've openly and authentically shared, you're on this journey to improving who you are as a person, and maybe, dealing with some things that you didn't know were there until you've opened yourself up to, counseling and therapy. And like you said, I am a firm believer in counseling and therapy, just from my own experiences, but because I think our journeys were never meant to be alone. Right. And they weren't meant to be isolated. And I think it's a lot of what has connected you so much to the community that you serve, that we both serve. And so I think deeply about your journey as you're unlocking so many things throughout counseling, throughout therapy. Are there things that are being unlocked that you were like, oh, I buried that deep inside and I didn't know?
Yeah, but we could save that for another podcast.
Of course.
I will say that most definitely it has been beneficial. And I'm all about that meta experience of things and looking at things in a big picture. So yes, there have definitely been revelations, and I try to make it a place where it never turns into blame.
Yes.
It's, things are things because they're things. It's like cats. Cats are butts because they're cats, and that's what cats do.
I love it.
This is just the life that we have. And I'll tell you, I've been given certain, privileges and opportunities in life, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let those go to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so thinking about that and not letting those go to waste, as you think about others who are listening to Fearlessly Made You right now, or who are just trying to figure out, but what does it mean for me to use what I have, or to know that I have something to give, and how do I own my fearless existence? What would you share with people as wisdom or knowledge nuggets?
It's finding confidence. Is everyone requires confidence. We all have to have confidence. And to answer your question a little bit earlier, I like the adage of, like when you're on a plane and there's a change in air cabin pressure. Well, you're going to put the oxygen mask over yourself before you put it over small children, because what good are you to anybody else if you yourself are not in a frame of mind to be productive?
Right.
And, you can look at it one way where it's saying, well, it's just me, it's not affecting anybody else.
Right.
Then you're sorely mistaken. If you have a spouse, if you have family members, if you think that how you're acting and you're not doing anything to improve your acting is not affecting those folks, you're wrong. Right. You're so wrong. And it's not fair to put those individuals in that position to tell you that either.
Absolutely.
So I would say the takeaway to answer your question is just that mindfulness and to find that confidence, to find that voice. It comes in different ways. It comes in art. It comes in magnifying your talents. It comes in talking to a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, that y'all used to do things together. It's bringing up childhood memories with your siblings. Find that confidence. Find a time when you were confident and just experience that, because that's going to give you your voice. Absolutely.
And I think so many times, especially now, people talk about a voice, and I think people think it's like a big thing and it has to be this huge journey. And it is just that. There is something about you that was brought into this world for a reason. And you're the only person that can live that journey. And understanding and knowing that, and sometimes just going back to your point, a place where that felt safe and that felt okay is really the best way to regain that voice. So I love that. I think that's such beautiful wisdom. And the other side of that too is in finding your voice and living your journey, there's a lot of work that can go into that, and it can be exhausting. So I'd love for you to talk about, one of the things I always talk about is balance. And for those of you guys all know, my balance is in wine, oftentimes. Yeah. But I joke, but there's balance in finding a way to give yourself a little bit of a reprieve and a break, and an understanding that you don't always have to be on and always have to be going. As you yourself have already mentioned, you're continuing to work on, not feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
How have you built in balance into that feeling as well?
Learning how to say no.
Ooh, okay.
No.
Talk to us about that.
No is a great word. And
yes, please talk to us about that.
I subscribe because, I had a conversation with actually another board member the other day, and she called and said, I just feel so bad that I haven't been involved with X, Y, and Z. And I said, you should not feel bad at all, because the minute you realize that you would not be able to carry out X, Y, and Z because of A, B, and C, you said, hey, here I'm using my voice to say I can't do this.
Yep.
So to say no is better than saying yes and not doing it.
Absolutely.
And I will be the first to tell you that I want to serve. I don't mind being a subordinate role. I enjoy that. Give me marching orders. Give me clear marching orders. And again, it goes back to that. I will give you Z exactly how you need it, if that's what you tell me to do. So totally lost my train of thought there. We're gonna have to.
Oh no, you're good. So finding balance. You're perfect. You were like right in it. I was listening. I was engaged. I was like,
I'm so sorry. I can start that over again. I was totally off on things.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're fine. So as you're kind of thinking through that, I'll share, like, one of the things that I love about what you just shared was when you think about balance, and the conversation around no, I think that's probably one of the hardest things that I know for myself I've had to do, because you want to be so much for so many people, and you want to give of yourself because there's something, I don't know about you, but I know that there's certain skills that are God-given talents and giftings that you're like, I was meant to share this, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to share, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to help and support.
Right. FOMO. It's total FOMO.
Yes.
Yes. And it's for me is that of missing out on, because there's nothing worse than missing that opportunity that you could have helped. And I think going back to the work-life balance is saying no. And I think a situation you had mentioned to me a while back, you're like, I almost said, yes, I would do this, but I just can't right now.
Yep.
And you know what would have happened in my mind had you said yes, and then you just disappeared, you ghosted, because you're doing things like podcasts, and you're very, very, and writing books and having things. I would have been mad. I would have been, anyone would have been kind of bummed. And that would have gotten in the way of what you could have. I'm a big firm believer in proper people placement prevents problems.
Oh, I like
And
that.
it is a tried and true. I have all the little, little leadership manual terms. But having worked with volunteers, I've worked with literally thousands of volunteers. And that is so braggadocious. But I'll tell you that that's another reason why I volunteer is because I wanted to put kind of my time where my mouth was.
Yes.
Time is very valuable. I can sit here and give you the tools and say, oh, this is great. This is great. This is great.
Right.
And then I carry home a paycheck because I work for an organization that works with volunteers. I'm going to say no, while you guys are in work, or on Saturdays enjoying this, I'm now going to be volunteering.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to say that without sounding braggadocious. That's just what I would rather be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that understanding of where your talent and who you are as a person has to connect the dots to where other people see you and role modeling that.
Right. Because everyone wants to feel useful.
Absolutely.
And there is no reason that not every single person in a committee or a board or within an organization can't feel useful.
Right.
You're again, like you said, you're put on this earth for a reason, and you're in this position. So I'll find you a job to do. Whether you're sick, ill, on your deathbed, if you want to be involved, I'll have you sitting down. Because people just want to feel needed.
Absolutely.
And people need to feel value, and that's how I gain my confidence. And that's how I am able to have a voice.
I love that. So bringing it full circle, it's that value, it's that confidence, it's that ability to build balance into it all so that you're able to have the energy to kind of uplift others and yourself without putting yourself in a situation where you can't allow
and letting
the voice
people
to be
down.
heard.
That's
Absolutely.
and it's letting people down.
Yep. Well, Beej, sorry, I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about.
Well, no, this is a fantastic opportunity because Beej. Okay, you know what? Here, let's just clear it up right now.
Go for it.
Excellent opportunity.
Let's share it.
My given name is Bradley
Yes.
Jr. I'm a junior. So growing up, I went by BJ until some family members started calling me by Beej.
And
so
we
it's
were
a nickname
having
for a
this conversation right before, and I was like, oh no, you've given me information I didn't need to have.
No, it's okay.
I was like, now it's going to be in my head. But no, the great thing that I love about Beej is his ability to just laugh and enjoy and be balanced. And thank you so much for joining us today on Fearlessly Made You. Thank you so much for being so authentic and honest and truly who you are. But also thank you for the conversation and the dialogue. I think there's something beautiful about knowing it's not just about us. There's so many people that we're connecting to and engaging with. And there's so many people in our community who need that support and who need, to have their voices heard. Sometimes can't see it without someone else helping shine a little bit of light on that. And I think that is absolutely what you're doing in our community. And I appreciate you. I know Favor House appreciates you, as does so many other boards. And our Fearlessly Made You crew appreciates you and is grateful to have you joining us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you
love
and your
for
crew.
you.
Well, likewise.
Of course. And guys, don't forget to stay tuned for the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.